Learn English through story. Forbidden temptation. On the outskirts of a quiet village, nestled between dense forests and rolling hills, there stood an ancient monastery. The monastery, though secluded, was known for its wisdom and guidance. It was a place where troubled souls found solace, and where men and women could seek to understand their purpose away from the distractions of the world. Its walls had witnessed the prayers of countless monks and pilgrims who sought spiritual clarity. Among these was Father Michael, a man who had lived in the monastery for nearly 20 years. Father Michael had arrived at the monastery in his early 20s, fleeing a world he no longer understood. He had been drawn to the monastic life for its simplicity, its promise of peace, and the belief that by serving God, he could avoid the sins of the world. Over the years, he had become a trusted leader among the monks, known for his wisdom, humility, and unwavering devotion. He spent his days in prayer, study, and service to the villagers who came seeking guidance. Yet, despite his years of discipline and devotion, Father Michael had always wrestled with one thing: desire. As a young man, he had once been deeply in love with a woman named Elena, a relationship that had ended in heartbreak when his calling to the priesthood pulled him away. Since then, he had shut himself off from the world of romance, choosing the path of celibacy and devoting his heart to God alone. But deep down, a part of him still wondered what his life would have been like had he chosen differently. This conflict remained buried for years, until one fateful day. It was a warm summer evening when Anna arrived at the monastery. She was a beautiful young woman, no more than 25, with striking features and an air of mystery about her. Her eyes, a deep shade of brown, were full of unspoken sadness, and her voice carried a melodic softness that drew people in. Anna came seeking guidance, as many did, but there was something different about her: a darkness, a weight that she carried with her. Father Michael noticed her immediately. She stood out among the usual visitors, not just because of her beauty but because of the way she seemed to move through the world, as if she were searching for something that eluded her. She requested a private meeting with him, saying only that she had questions she could not speak of openly. They met in his study, a small room lined with bookshelves and lit by candlelight. As they sat across from one another, Father Michael could sense the tension in the air. Anna fidgeted with her hands, avoiding his gaze at first, as if she were struggling to find the right words. "I'm lost," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Father Michael leaned forward, his brow furrowing with concern. "What troubles you, my child?" Anna hesitated, her eyes flickering up to meet his. "Via broken bar, I've done things I'm not proud of. I've sinned." Father Michael nodded, his expression calm and reassuring. "We all have sinned, in one way or another, but God is merciful. Tell me, what weighs on your heart?" Anna's hands trembled slightly as she spoke. "I've been with a man," she confessed, her voice shaky. "I wasn't married to him, but I loved him. And now a broken bar. Now he's gone, and I feel empty. I feel as if I've lost myself." Father Michael felt a pang of empathy. He knew all too well the pain of losing someone you loved. But there was something else in her words, something that stirred an unease within him. He couldn't place it at first, but as their conversation continued, he began to realize that his feelings toward Anna were different. She wasn't just another penitent seeking absolution, she was a temptation he hadn't faced in years. The days that followed were fraught with inner turmoil. Father Michael found himself thinking of Anna constantly, her presence lingering in his thoughts even during prayer. He counseled her several more times, and with each meeting, the connection between them deepened. She shared her pain, her regrets, and her longing for something she couldn't name. And Father Michael, against his better judgment, began to look forward to their conversations, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke to him, the subtle way her hand brushed his when they parted. As the weeks went by, the attraction grew stronger. Father Michael knew it was wrong. He had taken vows of celibacy, of devotion to God. He had lived a life of discipline for decades. Yet here was this woman, stirring feelings in him that he had thought long buried. He was no longer a young man, yet the intensity of his desire for Anna was undeniable. It came to a head one evening when Anna came to him in tears. She had been at the monastery for nearly a month, and her presence had become a regular part of his days. But that night, something was different. She was more vulnerable, more desperate than he had ever seen her. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't keep pretending. I've tried to find peace, but I can't. I feel so alone." Father Michael reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are never alone," he said softly. "God is always with you." Anna shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want God, I want us." She stopped herself, her voice breaking. Father Michael's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the weight of her words, the unspoken desire that hung between them. For a moment, he was silent, his mind racing. He knew what she was about to say, and he knew the consequences if he allowed it to continue. But in that moment, all his years of discipline seemed to slip away. "And a broken bar," he began, his voice hoarse. "We can't a broken bar." But before he could finish, she leaned in, pressing her lips to his in a desperate, passionate kiss. Father Michael froze, his mind screaming at him to pull away, but his body betrayed him. He kissed her back, his hands trembling as they found their way to her waist. For a few moments, they were lost in each other, the years of restraint and guilt melting away in the heat of their forbidden passion. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, Father Michael pulled back, his breath ragged, his heart pounding in his chest. "No," he said, his voice firm despite the desire still coursing through him. "This is wrong." Anna's eyes were filled with confusion and hurt. "Why is it wrong to love someone?" Father Michael stood up, pacing the room, his mind in turmoil. "Because I've taken vows. I've dedicated my life to God. I cannot." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "I cannot betray that." Anna stood as well, her face flushed with emotion. "But what about love? Isn't that what God teaches, to love one another?" Father Michael shook his head, his heart aching. "Not like this. These a broken bar. This isn't love, Anna. It's temptation. It's desire." Anna's eyes flashed with anger. "And what's so wrong with desire? You're human, just like me. You feel things, just like I do." "Yes, but I made a choice," Father Michael said, his voice rising. "I chose this life because I believed in something greater than myself. I believed that by giving up my desires, I could serve a higher purpose." "And now?" Anna challenged, stepping closer to him. "Do you still believe that?" Father Michael stared at her, his heart heavy with the weight of his decision. He had spent his entire life avoiding temptation, but here it was, standing before him in the form of a woman who made him feel more alive than he had in years. But deep down, he knew the truth. What he felt for Anna wasn't love. He had not the kind of love he had dedicated his life to. It was something darker, something selfish. It was the desire to possess, to take what he couldn't have, and it went against everything he had sworn to uphold. "I can't," he said finally, his voice breaking. "I can't do this." Anna stared at him, her expression a mixture of pain and disbelief. "So you're just going to push me away, after everything?" Father Michael closed his eyes, his chest tight with regret. "I have to." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, without another word, Anna turned and walked out of the room, leaving Father Michael standing alone in the dim light of the candles. The days that followed were some of the hardest of Father Michael's life. He could still feel the echo of Anna's kiss, the way her touch had ignited something in him that he had long tried to bury. But he knew that he had made the right choice. His vows, his commitment to God, were not just words, that they were the foundation of who he was. To break them for a fleeting moment of desire would have destroyed everything he had worked for. Yet the temptation lingered, a constant reminder of his humanity. Father Michael spent long hours in prayer, seeking forgiveness and strength. He knew that he had come dangerously close to losing himself, to giving in to something that would have only brought more pain in the end. But he also knew that the path he had chosen was not an easy one, and that temptation would always be a part of his journey. One evening, as he stood in the chapel, gazing up at the stained glass windows, Father Michael found a sense of peace. He had faced his darkest temptation and, though he had stumbled, he had not fallen completely. He had learned that even the most devout could be swayed by desire, but true strength lay in the ability to recognize it and turn away. As the sun set and the chapel filled with a warm glow of twilight, Father Michael whispered a prayer, not just for himself, but for Anna as well. He prayed that she would find peace, that she would find the love she deserved, and that they would both learn from the choices they had made. In the end, the lesson was clear. Temptation is a part of life, but it is our response to it that defines who we are. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.